Hi, this is Daniel Alpine, animation historian, and welcome to a new episode of Animation Memory Lane. When it comes to studios that rushed into the feature animation business in the 1990s after the success of Disney, one in particular that was slow was Metro Goldwyn Mayer, also known as MGM for short. When animation fans think about animation from MGM, they would immediately think of the classic Tom and Jerry cartoons, and perhaps the classic Tex Avery cartoons such as Red Hot Riding Hood. But in terms of feature animation, after the commercial failure of the Chuck Jones directed adaptation of The Phantom Tollbooth in 1970, MGM relied on distributing other people's animated films. An example of this that's important to our story is the 1989 Don Bluth film All Dogs Go to Heaven. While it is tempting to discuss the history of that film, all that needs to be known here is that when the film was released, it faced fierce competition with Disney's The Little Mermaid. While All Dogs Go to Heaven earned back its production cost, the least it did was break even. However, the film would prove to be more popular thanks to its video sales. So, when MGM decided to enter the feature animation business in the 90s, they decided that the first in house production would be a sequel to All Dogs Go to Heaven. But, as was the case for most continuations of a Don Bluth film, the original director, Don Bluth, did not return to direct this one, nor was he involved in any way. For All Dogs Go to Heaven 2, directing duties were handed to animator Paul Sabella. Previously, Sabella worked as an executive producer on television cartoons such as The Smurfs and A Pup Named Scooby Doo, and he also worked on Heavy Metal. All Dogs Go to Heaven 2 would be his first, and at this time, only time that he directed a feature. As for the voices, only the voice of Itchy, Dom DeLuise, returned for the sequel, while the rest were recast. The voice of Carface was taken over by Ernest Borgnine, since the character's first voice, Vic Tayback, died shortly after the first movie's release. And Charlie Sheen took over the role of the main character Charlie after Burt Reynolds declined to return. Rounding out the rest of the cast would include Sheena Easton as Sasha and George Hearn as the villain Red. Here's a fun fact. The singing voice of Charlie in the movie was Jesse Cordy, and he was also the voice of LeFou in Beauty and the Beast. As for the animation, even as a teen, I knew that the animation was different than the first one, and as an adult, I discovered why. The first movie was done in the traditional style of other Don Bluth films, which was an attempt to harken back to the old days of Disney animation. The sequel was much more stylized, and it's mostly considered a step down from the previous film. That's because animation services for the sequel were instead outsourced to all different studios all around the world. These would include Taiwan, Britain, Ireland, France, Denmark. You get the picture. While All Dogs Go to Heaven 2 was initially scheduled for a fall 1995 release, it was decided to push it back to spring of 1996 so it wouldn't face competition with Disney Pixar's Toy Story and Universal and Steven Spielberg's Balto. The film was first released on March 29th of 1996, a few weeks after the re-release of Disney's Oliver and Company. And while some people enjoyed the sequel, the general response was bad with criticism toward the story and animation and songs. The box office performance of All Dogs Go to Heaven 2 also proved to be poor, but despite that, a TV series spin-off would air from 1996 to 1998, with its finale being a direct-to-video Christmas movie called An All Dogs Christmas Carol. As for MGM Animation, while a feature based on the classic cartoon character Betty Boop was planned, it was ultimately cancelled,
and the studio would focus on TV shows and direct-to-video films, which includes the infamous direct-to-video sequel to Don Bluth's The Secret of Nim, The Secret of Nim 2, Timmy to the Rescue. It's awful. After the direct-to-video film Tom Sawyer in 2000, MGM wouldn't release another animated film until 2008's Igor, which was also a flop. The most recent animated films from the studio were the two poorly received animated Addams Family movies. Since 2021, MGM has been working on an animated Pink Panther feature. While nothing has happened yet, we'll see what happens till then.
This is animation historian Daniel Alpine, and I'll see you next time.